And I don't share that to blame myself or to blame anyone listening for their own kind of discontent, but rather miraculously somehow was able to see that as a moment of empowerment, because I realized that all throughout my journey, I had more power than I thought. I had more control than I imagined. And so you want to learn how to at least allow yourself to see the beauty in the present moment. Because even if you're miserable and in a toxic situation, we have to get ourselves feeling more alive, because we're going to take that energy with us wherever we go.
I'm Natalie Tysdal, a journalist who decided enough is enough. I left a career that looked glamorous to do what I was scared of doing, going out on my own. I'm a married working mom of 3. On this podcast, we're going to talk about issues that really matter. Why am I not sleeping? What's up with that diet everyone's talking about? Are my kids falling behind? How do I leave that job and start over? Welcome to the Natalie Tysdal podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Hi, everyone. It's Natalie, and welcome to the podcast today. I am so glad you are here this week. We're coming up on the end of another school year, and the thought of summer, of travel and time off is keeping me going here through the final stretch of being a teacher. I have a new appreciation for the hard work teachers put in, and the months that they get off in the summer are so deserved. Give a teacher, an extra thank you, an extra hug today, because they are working so hard for your kids. On to the topic of the day for the podcast, happiness. My guest is Stella Grizont. She is Time Magazine's acclaimed happiness expert. Stella, with her profound expertise as an executive coach and speaker, has touched the lives of many, many people across the world, guiding people toward not just career satisfaction, but a deeper, more fulfilling life. And isn't that what we all long for? Her groundbreaking work, The Work Happiness Method, masters the 8 skills to career fulfillment, which launched in March of this year. Stella is helping transform lives, making happiness more accessible with her wisdom gathered from coaching thousands of people in more than 30 countries. And her insights are shared on all kinds of platforms that like MSNBC, The Today Show, Vanity Fair, and many, many others. Stella brings a ton of knowledge and a lot of advice I'm really excited for you to hear today. So we're going to talk about happiness. We're going to talk about how to achieve it and how to turn things around in your life so that you can start to see more of it. I would love to have you join me with more of what I do, talking about faith, health, and family on my newsletter. And you can sign up for that on my website, which is natalietysdal.com. No E on the end of Tysdal, by the way. Also, hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast so you will get an alert each time a new episode comes out. Let's get right to the interview today with Stella Grizont. Stella, what a joy to talk to you and to talk about happiness.
I'm so happy to be here.
Imagine you find people saying that all the time, like, I'm so happy to talk about this. But tell us how you got into this business of positive psychology and happiness.
Yeah, well, it started because I wasn't so happy. I was quite miserable at work. In fact, I kept chasing happiness at work. I thought I was in my dream job, working in advertising and climbing the corporate ladder and doing all the right things and succeeding in all the right ways. But I was so depleted and finding myself so depressed that I would just come home, and I write about this in the book, and just dig into a jar of Nutella straight up with a tablespoon and numb my feelings and talk to God and be like, there's got to be more than this. And then one day I got an opportunity to go help entrepreneurs, women launching their businesses. And I thought, this is my chance to do something meaningful, do something truly creative, help these women make their dreams come true. And it was so invigorating. And I thought, this is my dream job. And I finally found my people. And then fast forward 8 years later, I'm like back in the Nutella jar, like feeling really depressed, really burnt out, like not knowing what's going on. And then I thought, oh, I know what to do. I must launch my own business. And if I control all the decisions, then I'll be happy. Then I won't burn out. And so I actually went to go study applied positive psychology at UPenn during that, like in my transition, because I thought I want to be equipped with the science of happiness. And here I go. And then 1 year into my business, again, it looked like everything was going well on the outside. We had, we were on MSNBC and we had clients like Google and Johnson & Johnson. But I was curled up in a fetal position in my New York City studio, just having at it with a Nutella jar. And this time feeling just so much like an imposter, because I was like, how did I land here again? And at that point, I had to really take my own medicine. And I realized, maybe it wasn't the corporate America that was making me miserable. Maybe it wasn't the startup world that was making me burnt out. Maybe I had something to do with it. Maybe it was me. And I don't share that to blame myself or to blame anyone listening for their own kind of discontent, but rather miraculously somehow was able to see that as a moment of empowerment, because I realized that all throughout my journey, I had more power than I thought. I had more control than I imagined. And so that was a turning point for me. And that's when I started to really integrate everything I learned in my master's program and also apply my own tools to kind of resuscitate myself and shift gears. And that was the genesis of the work happiness method.
Wow. What a powerful story. And I want to dig into a couple of things there. Okay. So let's start with this. And then I want to get into how you started applying that and how you would advise people and how the book helps people in applying that. But my story, and I've told you just a little bit about it, was similar in that I was just not happy in the news business and so toxic. And it was at one point like, is this me? Is it the news? Is it? And it's hard to sometimes understand, where is this yucky feeling? Why do I have this need for Nutella or whatever it is? It's hard sometimes to determine where that is and when to leave and when to stay and make the changes. So how can you help people in, one podcast in figuring that out?
Yes, that's such a good question. And I hear it all the time. That's, my clients come to me and they're like, I don't know if it's me or if it's the job. And first of all, just even asking that question already is a beautiful start, because it means that you're willing to look inside. It means you're willing to see things differently. So that, first of all, I think is a beautiful starting point. In the work happiness method, what we do is first we start with, you want to learn how to at least allow yourself to see the beauty in the present moment, because even if you're miserable and in a toxic situation, we have to get ourselves feeling more alive, because we're going to take that energy with us wherever we go. So even if I tell people, if you're willing to quit, you have the option to be brave. So why not flex and try to do something differently, experiment, make a bolder ask, try setting healthy boundaries, see if you can manage your mind and mood in a new way. And, if anything, you're going to grow regardless. And maybe you do realize you have to go, or maybe you do realize, wow, I actually can stay and flourish here. But how do you know? Well, first, what I do with my clients is, we work on their mindset, but then what we do is we jump into clarifying their vision of what success really means to them, which is not a statement of achievements. It's not a statement of like, I want to earn this amount, get this house, have this title, get this book done. It's actually a statement of who you are when your heart is singing. It's a description of who you are when you're most alive. It's I'm getting chills as I'm talking to you because it's when we're seeing in Technicolor, when we feel united with others and the universe and things are unfolding on our behalf and we really feel like we're on that path. Who are we being and what does that look like and what are the conditions enabling that? Yeah. So oftentimes clients will be like, I don't know what I want. And I'm actually say, yes, you do. You do know what you want because you at least have that vision that you already have, that you already know. And so we do that exercise and it's called the Vision Generator. And anyone listening can download it for free at visiongenerator.com. So we do that first. And then what we do is we scrub your vision for clues on what your values are. So your values are the guardrails for your decisions, for your choices, for your thinking, for your actions, so that you are steering yourself towards that vision every day. And so what I have my clients do, and this is just, it only takes a few weeks. It's not like, it doesn't take a long time. But once we do all that clarity work, we start to actually make decisions in alignment with our values at work. And so if I say one of my values is being creative, and I feel like, this job doesn't let me be creative. Well, what can you influence without even asking for permission to be more creative today? Is it you're going to change up how you do presentations? Is it you're going to have try a new recipe for breakfast? Is it how you're going to dress? Is it about how you're going to tell a story differently? Is it about who you're going to collaborate in a new way? We have so much more power to be who we want to be. And so what you do every day is you take tiny actions, tiny steps to just move a little bit towards being more of that person, practicing more of those values. Yeah. And then you pay attention. And then you notice what you notice. Notice how, what emerges, what are the thoughts, what are the feelings when you consciously start making decisions in alignment with those values. And so some people will start to notice tremendous impact, and some people will notice it's impossible. It's too hard. And so if you feel it's too much of a struggle, there's other things we do. We set boundaries, we have difficult conversations, all of that I go through in my book. But ultimately, if you go through all the inner skills and you find, listen, I authentically have done everything I can. I have looked inward. I have done my work. And then, then you're like, okay, this isn't serving me and I'm not able to serve others in this position. Then it's time to go.
My dog liked everything you just said.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I usually put her away, but she was really excited about what you were saying.
Yeah, I feel like animals are very in touch. So,
okay, so much of that. It's so beautiful. And yet sometimes, and I'm sure people have asked you this too, sometimes you feel like I'm in the right place. This is what I've worked so hard to do, but I've got this boss that just holds me back, or, this one person that keeps as a thorn in my side. How do you get around that? How can you be happy when other people are holding you back or making life difficult at work?
Yeah, there's definitely those people, and it depends how difficult, right? So if there's a level of abuse, and if there's like verbal abuse, emotional abuse, if that's like one extreme, right? That requires a different set of actions. But let's just say for our conversation that it's not nothing like that. But maybe they're just really difficult, sabotaging you somehow. Again, I work with my clients to, one of the things that we talk about is how do you have those difficult conversations? And the most difficult conversation you really have to have is first with yourself about what is this really about? What is this really about? What's happening for me in my body when I'm in a room with this person? Or what is this bringing up for me? What am I feeling? And what need that's foundational for my well-being, for my success, for my peace, for me being my best at work is being violated in this relationship? Because you want to know what the feeling is, what the need is, and then what you want to know is, well, what's the future that I would like to have? And ideally it's a future that's one in which all parties can be uplifted and win, right? So what's that future? And so what I talk about in my book is before you even go in to have the conversation, you need to ready your approach. And your approach is really about your energy. Because if you don't kind of dialogue with yourself and get clear on what's happening, it's very easy to go into that conversation with kind of a confrontational approach.
Yeah.
And because you interviewed people professionally, if they don't feel safe in a conversation, then they're shutting down right away.
Right. Or they're combative or they're competitive, whatever that might be. And there's no resolution if everyone's just mad.
Yeah. And so how do we get our nervous system into a place where we're feeling calm, open, even willing to see something that we didn't see before, curious, even empathetic towards someone who might be making our lives miserable? Empathy doesn't mean we agree. It just means that we're willing to care enough to understand.
Yeah.
And so if we can get into that spot, which actually takes significant work, that level of openness, curiosity, empathy, if we can get into that spot, miraculous transformations can take place. I strongly believe that you can have, it's not, sometimes when we're still in, I call it confrontational mode, where we're seeing this person as someone we got to either like defend ourselves against or fight, we kind of are like, it's either this or that. It's either A or B. But if we get ourselves into a true like conversational mode where we're open, where we're seeking to understand, where we're seeking to share, where we're curious, then it's not option A or B. Then it's like, it could be C, it could be D, it could be Z. We can come up with options that didn't even exist before. And I see that happen all the time with clients. I had a client who would schedule time to cry in the bathroom. I mean, it was so bad. And she's just like, I can't have this conversation with my boss. He's not going to get it. It's only going to get worse. He doesn't have the capacity to understand, Stella. And so we really worked on it for many months to get her into a place where she wasn't feeling like a victim, where she could go in there honoring her integrity, championing herself. And in a matter of 15 minutes, everything changed. She shared that she wasn't able to be her best and be a leader on this team because she felt like there wasn't a lot of room for her voice when he was in the room. She was able to deliver it in a way that was compassionate and empathetic. And he said, you know what, you're absolutely right. I was feeling the same. How about we get you on a new project? She couldn't believe it. She didn't even realize that was an option. She didn't even realize there was another project. And so sometimes something will emerge that you can't foresee. But if you go in there with that openness and that non-defensiveness, you're, at least you're creating a possibility.
Yeah. Are you looking for ways to stay energized, healthy, and help your family stay healthy? I've started taking supplements from Seeking Health, and it has changed the game for me. I no longer worry that my family is getting enough of the vitamins we need, and I know the quality of what we're taking is top notch. I take an immunity support supplement, magnesium, and several others, including electrolytes to stay hydrated. So many people ask me about these supplements that I've made it really easy for you to find right on my website, natalietysdal.com/favorites. Also, bonus, I have a coupon code to help you save 10% on your order. You will find that coupon code on the website as well. Go to natalietysdal.com/favorites. Click on Seeking Health. I may earn a small commission if you purchase there, but that's just to help my small business grow, the website and the podcast, to keep this news and good interviews coming your way. Again, natalietysdal.com/favorites and click on Seeking Health.
I love what you said a few minutes ago, and that's what it sounds like happened with this woman, that what do you have to lose? If you're just going to leave anyway,
Totally.
you may as well put it out there.
Exactly.
Be honest. Listen, because you don't have anything to lose and you never know what might come of it.
Exactly. Yeah. You are very powerful when you're on the verge of quitting. You have so much power to flex and try new things.
That could go two ways though. Like I know in the news business, people are hot-headed, and I remember it could go two ways. You could like have your piece and tell off the boss and say, I don't ever want to see you again, and here's everything I think of you, and leave. And then feel like, I got that off my chest. Or you could take it the other way and say, let me just listen to you and say how I feel and get into that good space. And then if it doesn't go well, you could still leave. But I've seen it go both ways. And usually that first way I mentioned comes back and bites you in the butt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that doesn't serve. It's not really, when we're speaking from that anger, which is, that's our reactive, that's our defensiveness. That's our, our fight or flight.
Yeah.
That's our amygdala is running the show. But what we want to let run the show is more our prefrontal cortex and our heart, really, which is the part that can maintain a little bit more foresight and openness and is more strategic. But that doesn't work. We can't actually access our executive function when we are stressed and in fight or flight.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell people, if you're really angry, you have to wait. So you don't want to tell off the boss right away, like take a walk around the block. You have to calm yourself down. And sometimes it will take weeks.
Yeah.
If not longer.
Yeah. So I can't help but draw parallels to relationships. A marriage, any friendship, anything. When you're angry and the fight or flight is, I'm done, goodbye, versus to listen.
Yes.
And use those skills and getting the nervous system into a good place. Draw those parallels in how we can learn from that in other ways.
Oh, I love that you drew that parallel because, well, first of all, I always tell whenever I always say that my husband is my greatest teacher because my greatest teacher in difficult conversations, and I'm doing a lot of practice with him, and it is really hard. But when you have those, there's lots of ugly fights, but then there's some of those transformational fights where you're like, we really listened to each other and we grew closer and we were able to really stay open, and you feel stronger and better afterwards. That's the good stuff. And it might not happen every time, but that's what we want to work towards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to do a few ugly fights and then learn from it, and then you do it well the next time. But it can be miraculous. It really can.
Yeah. Let's talk more about the positive psychology, the finding happiness. So we've talked quite a bit about the negative side, getting rid of the negative, but give us other tips and other ways to find that happiness. I love what you first said of looking inward. Like, you got to be able to do that first, but give us more.
Yes. So before we do that, though, I don't want to say that we have to get rid of the negative, because it actually starts with accepting the negative.
Okay.
It actually starts with us labeling wherever we are. So if we are feeling, let's say, depressed or lonely or scared, we want to actually just give it a name and acknowledge that that's what our experience is. Because if we sweep it under the rug, skip over, want to ignore it, and just move on to the good part, then we're actually bypassing an opportunity to grow or to learn from what we need to see. So so we don't want to ignore the negative. What we want to do is accept it and expand our vision. So one of the cool studies that I love and I keep referencing is when these researchers, Waldinger and a team in 2006, they took two groups of participants and they had them stare at a screen with eye tracking goggles. And before they stared at the screen, one group they induced into a positive mood by showing them pictures of puppies and babies, and then another group they induced them into a negative mood by showing them sad images. And what they found is that the people who were in a positive mood, their eyes tended to go around the periphery of an image and then scatter within. And then the people who were in a negative mood, their eyes tended to really hover around one particular point in the image. So what you have is a beautiful demonstration of when we are in a positive mood, we can actually take in the big picture. We can actually see more.
That's amazing.
Isn't it so cool? Like literally and figuratively, we can see more. And so what our goal is to be able to take in more, hold more truths, see more. So if we are down, that is one data point, like, this is rough, I'm having a bad day, the world is hard. And, how can I see more? How can I see that it's a beautiful sunny day and I got a chance to do Pilates today and I'm talking to you and, I'm healthy. There's food in the fridge. Like, how do we amplify what is good, right? And so one of the things that I offer, and this is not a breakthrough by any means, but I offer an exercise where I say, I couple it. I do a complaint vacation, where you abstain from complaining about the things that are wrong. So it's not ignoring what's wrong. It's abstaining from your energetic response to them. Like, this sucks, right? Just like, oh, yes, I got stuck in traffic today. Not, I'm stuck in traffic, right? So we try to do that. And then we couple it with gratitude. So it's seeing what's right. So it's acknowledging what's wrong and then seeing what's right.
Reversing that thought pattern.
Yeah. Or even expanding that, like, what we're seeing. And so I'm just curious, Natalie, what are you grateful for?
I'm looking out my window in front of us and it is a beautiful day and this cool breeze is coming in my window and I have this like really awesome like drink right here. Like I am such a believer in changing. If something is negative, going, okay, what are 3 things right now? Some days, Stella, some days I am so grateful for the breath in my lungs.
Yes.
Like I'm a big believer in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's how I like to wake up, is just like I'll wake up and, sometimes I don't. I have a 3-year-old and a 9-year-old, and the 3-year-old sometimes like, up at 5. So I don't get a morning routine all the time when he's, around. I can do it like later, but in the morning, what I can do is just before I like put my feet on the ground is just be like, thank you. Thank you for my health. Thank you for this body. Thank you for the people that I love, that we are healthy, that we are safe, that those are the first thoughts in my mind.
What a great way to start the day.
Yeah. And it's not always like, it's not like, it's not an overly emotional thing. Sometimes it is just acknowledging. Sometimes I do feel it more deeply, but I like to have that as a practice. And also before I go to bed, I'll kind of go through a list of things that I'm grateful for.
Yeah. In the realm and the world of positive psychology, is that something that is at the forefront? Is that gratefulness? And that, give me other things that people who study this do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I like to say that gratitude is a gateway emotion. It's the easiest one for us to step through. And then it kind of gets us into this, what Barbara Fredrickson, who's a researcher, says, a broaden and build, kind of an upward spiral of positivity. So it's sometimes more difficult for us to step into like a sense of awe or a sense of love or exuberance or joy. But gratitude, it's a little bit more accessible. And so I think that wherever you are, you can kind of start to acknowledge what you're grateful for. And sometimes it just takes longer for you to feel it in your heart.
Yeah.
And so I tell people just fake it, just go through your list, keep going, keep adding to it until you start to feel softening in your chest.
So you can fake it. You can fake the gratitude. You can't really fake the happy.
Yeah, you can. When I say fake it, I mean like you might have to, some people will be like, of course I'm grateful for my family. Of course I'm grateful for my home. And they don't feel the gratitude. And so what I say is just keep going until you feel it. So when I would live in New York City, I'd get out of the subway feeling kind of grumpy. And then I had like 3 avenues and 3 blocks to walk. And I thought, okay, I am going to do a nonstop gratitude walk. And I'm just going to name something I'm grateful for every step of the way. And I'd be like, I'm grateful for this coffee. I'm grateful that the weather is good. I'm grateful that, I have these shoes on. I'm grateful that I have this job. And I would keep going. And then in the beginning, I'd feel like, whatever. I know I didn't feel it. But by the time I'd press the button to enter the elevator, I would be welling up with tears. I would be feeling just so full. And seeing differently. So it takes some time to get into that zone. But we can all get there.
What a great practice. It makes me think of, sometimes it's really hard to get motivated, like to clean my house or whatever. But if I know that if I just go get the darn vacuum and I just start vacuuming, then I'm like, okay, I could do the dishes.
Yeah.
I can do some, it's that action comes before motivation.
Yes.
Like it reminds me of that. Like just get started with it and it starts to change that mood, that pattern.
Yes. And to your point, so I know you were asking for other tools.
Yeah.
So another tool that's evidence-based and that we know is very important, especially now, is around self-compassion. So when you're being hard on yourself, when your critic is just going off, how do you extend compassion to yourself so that you're not beating yourself up, so that you're not punishing yourself, so you're not shaming yourself? And so it actually starts with acknowledging how you feel, right? So, I feel disappointed that this didn't go the way that I wanted. And then it's talking to yourself like you would talk to your dearest friend with love. Well, of course, Stella, you feel that way. You work so hard on X, Y, and Z, right? And then you want to remind yourself that you are human and that we all make mistakes, or we're not perfect. And that reminds us that of our interconnectedness. So like everyone makes mistakes, or sometimes things don't work out for people even when they do everything right? So that just is a gentle way of talking to yourself, and that actually helps you become more resilient in the face of setbacks. So that's another popular tool. I mean, I can go on. I can list 20. So tell me if you want me to keep
that.
going.
No, I think that the ones you've given us are so powerful and important. And I want to tell people, though, where they can find you, since we could talk for hours and hours, but where can people find you and get more of everything you're doing?
Oh, thank you. They can go to stellagrizont.com, and that's where they can learn about my coaching programs and my book and speaking and all of that.
And the name of the book is, give it to me again, The Work Happiness Method.
That's right. The Work Happiness Method. Master 8 skills to career fulfillment.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I follow you on social media, by the way, which I would encourage people to do they can get some of your tips and follow everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me, Natalie. I really appreciate it.
A pleasure. And I'll continue to follow, and we'll do a happiness check-in again. We'll do this again. How about that?
I would love that. I would love that.
Wonderful. Great to talk to you, Stella.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Natalie Tysdal podcast. You can follow along on Instagram and at natalietysdal.com. Subscribe to the show to catch every new episode, and leave a review so I can continue to bring you fresh content. See you next week.